I married up, but she married richer. That's what I told myself every morning while Emily applied her $100 face cream in our marble bathroom, complaining about the water pressure in our $500,000 house. My name was Thomas Mitchell, 40 years old, self-made tech entrepreneur who built a software company from nothing. I wasn't rich enough for Emily's tastes, apparently. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Thomas, did you see the credit card statement? Emily's voice carried that familiar edge of disdain as she walked into our kitchen, designer heels clicking against imported Italian tile. At 35, she still turned heads with her carefully maintained blonde hair and gym-sculpted figure, but I'd learned to see past the facade. Which one? The Nordstrom bill for $3,000 or the spa charges for $1,500? I didn't look up from my laptop, reviewing quarterly reports for my company. She laughed, that tinkling sound she used when she thought I was being ridiculous. Don't be dramatic. I work hard at the boutique. I deserve nice things. Her boutique, the interior design shop I'd bankrolled with $50,000, which barely broke even most months. Emily had a talent for spending money, not making it. Of course you do, sweetheart. The endearment tasted bitter. Just wondering when you'll start earning enough to pay for them yourself. Emily's face flushed red. You know what, Thomas? Maybe I will. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, leaving me alone with my coffee and the growing certainty that my marriage was circling the drain. What I didn't know was how fast it would happen, or how much it would cost me. That evening was Emily's birthday party. She'd insisted on hosting it at our house, inviting her usual crowd of shallow friends and hangers-on. I played the dutiful husband, mixing drinks and making small talk while Emily held court in our living room. Her best friends, Lila and Becca, were there as always. Lila worked as a real estate agent, selling overpriced condos to young professionals. Becca was married to a lawyer and spent her days at yoga classes and wine tastings. Both women treated me like an ATM with legs. Thomas makes the best martinis, Emily announced loudly, holding up her glass. It's about the only thing he's good at anymore. Laughter rippled through the room. I forced a smile and retreated to the kitchen, where Rita, my office manager, was helping arrange appetizers. Rita was 55, divorced, and had worked for me since I started the company. She was the closest thing I had to real family. You okay, boss? Rita asked quietly, her sharp eyes studying my face. Just peachy. Living the dream. That woman doesn't deserve you. Before I could respond, Emily's voice carried from the living room. She was talking to Lila and Becca near the fireplace, their voices lowered, but not enough. I'm telling you, girls, this marriage is doomed, Emily said, giggling. I'm only with him for the money at this point. Thomas is completely harmless. He'll never figure out what's really going on. I stepped closer to the doorway, staying hidden in the shadows. What about Mason? Becca asked, her voice dripping with gossip-hungry excitement. Mason's incredible, Emily purred. You should see his body, and the things he can do. She lowered her voice to a whisper, but I caught enough words to understand. My wife was sleeping with someone named Mason, and her friends knew all about it. Does Thomas suspect anything? Lila asked. Thomas? Please. He's so buried in his computers and spreadsheets, he wouldn't notice if I brought Mason home for dinner. Besides, I need Thomas's money to keep up with Mason's lifestyle. That man has expensive tastes. More laughter. I gripped the door frame so hard my knuckles went white. How long are you going to keep this up? Becca wanted to know. Until I figure out how to divorce him without losing the house and the credit cards. My lawyer says it's tricky since Thomas owned everything before we got married. But I'll find a way. I always do. I'd heard enough. Moving quietly, I went upstairs to my home office and sat down at my desk. My hands were shaking as I opened my laptop and began typing a note. Emily, I heard every word tonight. I won't get in your way anymore. Consider this your freedom. I hope Mason's worth it. Thomas. I printed the note and left it on her pillow, then packed a bag with essentials. By the time the party ended and Emily stumbled upstairs, drunk on champagne and her own cruelty, I was already gone. But I wasn't running away. I was planning. The next morning, I sat in my lawyer's office while Emily's panicked voicemails piled up on my phone. David Brennan was the kind of attorney who charged $500 an hour and earned every penny. He'd handled my business contracts for years, and now he was about to handle my personal war. You want to do this legally and completely, David said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. Smart. Emotional decisions lead to expensive mistakes. I want her to understand what she's losing, I said. Every credit card, every account, every luxury she took for granted. The prenup you signed protects most of your assets, David confirmed. And since you owned the house before marriage, it's yours. We can have her removed from all joint accounts by end of business today. While David worked his legal magic, I drove to my office. Rita was already there, coffee brewing and a stack of papers waiting on my desk. "How did it go last night after I left?" she asked. I told her everything. Rita listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. "That manipulative little witch," she finally said. "What do you need me to do?" "Help me disappear her access to everything, credit cards, bank accounts, even the grocery store membership. I want her to wake up tomorrow in a different world." Rita smiled grimly. "Consider it done." By noon, Emily's financial life had been surgically dismantled. Every joint credit card was canceled. Every bank account with her name was closed, the funds transferred to accounts she couldn't touch. Her car payment, which came from our joint checking, would bounce next week. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts from Emily. I ignored them all. At 2:00, Rita knocked on my office door. "Emily's here," she said. "She looks like she's been crying for hours." "Send her in." Emily burst through the door. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, still wearing the same dress from last night's party. "Thomas, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all day. My cards aren't working, and the bank says our accounts are frozen." "They're not frozen," I said calmly. "They're closed." "What? You can't do that. I need those cards." "For what? Mason's expensive tastes?" Emily's face went white. You heard us talking." "I heard everything. Your friends are terrible whisperers." She collapsed into the chair across from my desk, suddenly looking older than her 35 years. "Thomas, please. I made a mistake. I was drunk and stupid, and I said things I didn't mean." "Which part didn't you mean? The part where you're only with me for money, or the part where you're sleeping with Mason?" Emily's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. You're a gold digger who got caught." "Don't call me that." "Then what would you call a woman who marries for money while planning to cheat and divorce?" Emily started crying again, but they were angry tears now. "You can't just cut me off. I have expenses, obligations." "You have a job. Use your own money." "The boutique barely makes anything. You know that." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided Mason was worth more than your marriage." Emily stood up, her face flushed with rage. "You bastard! I'll fight this. I'll take you to court." "Good luck with that. You might want to call your lawyer first, though. Oh, wait, you can't afford one anymore." She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Rita poked her head in a minute later. "That went well," she said dryly. "It's just the beginning." That evening, I sat in my empty house with a glass of whiskey and my laptop. A quick internet search revealed Mason's full name, Mason Torres, personal trainer at an upscale gym downtown. His social media was full of shirtless selfies and inspirational quotes about living your best life. He was handsome in an obvious way, with perfect teeth and carefully styled hair. He was also exactly the kind of man who would seduce a married woman for her money. I spent the next hour researching Mason's life. His gym membership records, his car payments, his rent, everything was leveraged to the hilt. The man was drowning in debt while projecting an image of success. Perfect. I opened a new document and began typing. If Emily wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real player looked like. 3 days later, Emily's car was repossessed from the parking lot of her boutique. I wasn't there to see it, but Becca helpfully posted a video on social media before realizing how it would look. Emily stood in the street, screaming at the tow truck driver while curious shoppers filmed with their phones. "This is a mistake," she kept yelling. "My husband will fix this." But her husband was busy destroying Mason Torres. I discovered that Mason had a weakness for married women with money. Through some careful investigation and a private detective who specialized in cheating spouses, I learned that Mason was currently sleeping with 3 different clients, including Emily and a woman named Carmen Delacroix. Carmen was married to Vincent Delacroix, who owned a chain of restaurants and had connections to some very unfriendly people, the kind of people who didn't appreciate their wives being seduced by pretty boy trainers. I arranged for Vincent to receive some anonymous photos of his wife and Mason in a compromising position at the gym after hours. Then I sat back and waited. The explosion came faster than I expected. I was having lunch at a cafe across the street from Mason's gym when 3 large men in expensive suits walked through the front door. 10 minutes later, Mason came stumbling out, his perfect face bruised and his designer workout clothes torn. He looked terrified. That evening, Emily called me from her mother's house. Her voice was small and frightened. "Thomas, someone attacked Mason at the gym. He thinks it's connected to you." "Why would Mason think that?" "Because you're the only person who knows about us." Emily, I hate to break this to you, but I'm not the only person who knows. Your friends know. Mason's gym buddies know. And apparently some very dangerous people know too. What do you mean? I mean, Mason's been busy with more than just you. Maybe you should ask him about Carmen Delacroix. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly a minute. Emily, you still there? You're lying. Am I? Ask him yourself. Better yet, ask him why Vincent Delacroix's men paid him a visit today. She hung up. The next morning brought even better news. Rita walked into my office with a huge grin and a tablet showing the local gossip website. You need to see this, she said. The headline read, Local Trainer Exposed in Cheating Scandal. Below it were photos of Mason with 3 different women, including Emily. The article detailed his pattern of seducing wealthy married clients and bleeding them dry financially. How did this get out? I asked, though I already suspected. Anonymous tip to the reporter, Rita said, along with financial records showing how much money these women spent on Mason. Emily alone gave him over $20,000 in the past 6 months. $20,000. Money she'd spent using credit cards that I paid for. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. M. I showed the message to Rita, who snorted with laughter. What's he going to do? Sue you for ruining his gigolo business? But Mason was more desperate than I'd realized. That night, someone threw a brick through the window of Emily's boutique. Spray painted across the glass in pink paint, the same color as Mason's protein shakes, were the words, Gold Digger. Emily called me, sobbing hysterically. He's lost his mind, Thomas. Mason thinks this is all my fault. He says I ruined his life by being careless. Sounds like a real winner. Still think he's worth it? This isn't funny. What if he comes after me? Then call the police. File a restraint order. Handle it like an adult. I can't afford a lawyer. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to destroy our marriage. I hung up and poured myself another whiskey. Tomorrow I would finish this. The charity gala was my idea, though nobody knew it. I'd anonymously donated $10,000 to the Children's Hospital Fund and suggested they hold the event at Meridian, the most exclusive bar in downtown Boston. The kind of place where Emily used to love being seen. I made sure she got an invitation. I also made sure Mason got one, through a fake Instagram account claiming to be a fitness influencer looking for networking opportunities. They both showed up, of course. Emily because she was desperate to rehabilitate her image after the boutique incident, and Mason because he never could resist a room full of wealthy people. I watched from across the bar as Emily tried to work the room, her smile brittle and forced. She was wearing a dress I recognized, one of the few designer pieces she hadn't been forced to sell yet. Her former friends gave her polite but cold greetings before quickly moving away. Mason arrived 20 minutes later, looking nervous, but trying to project his usual confidence. He'd covered the bruises on his face with makeup, but I could still see the yellow edges around his left eye. I waited until they found each other near the silent auction tables. Emily grabbed Mason's arm, pulling him into an alcove where they thought they couldn't be overheard. But I'd paid the bartender $50 to set up a wireless microphone near their hiding spot connected to the bar's sound system. You have to fix this, Emily hissed, her voice suddenly booming through the speakers. My reputation is ruined because of your stupid mistakes. The entire room fell silent, all eyes turning toward Emily and Mason. They looked around in horror, realizing their private conversation was being broadcast to 200 of Boston's social elite. This isn't my fault, Mason shot back, his voice echoing through the speakers. You're the one who told your friends everything. You're the one who couldn't keep your mouth shut. I kept you in designer clothes and expensive dinners for 6 months, Emily screamed. The least you could do is take responsibility. You kept me? Lady, you didn't keep me in anything. I was working 3 other clients the whole time. The crowd began murmuring, phones coming out to record the spectacle. I smiled and walked toward them, knowing this was my moment. Having a private conversation? I asked loudly, making sure my voice carried without the microphone. Emily spun around, her face white with shock. Thomas, what are you doing here? Same thing as everyone else, supporting charity, though it looks like you two are providing the entertainment. Mason stepped forward, his chest puffed out with false bravado. This is your fault, you bastard. You ruined everything. I ruined everything? I'm not the one who's been sleeping with married women for money. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know about Carmen Delacroix. I know about Sarah Martinez. I know about Jennifer Walsh. Should I keep going? Mason's face went red with rage. You son of a bitch! He lunged at me, but I was ready. I'd wrestled in college, and Mason was all show muscle with no real fighting experience. I sidestepped his clumsy attack and grabbed his arm, using his momentum to spin him around and pin him against the wall. "Here's how this works," I said quietly, my mouth close to his ear. "You're going to leave Emily alone. You're going to leave Boston. And if I ever see you again, I'll make sure Vincent Delacroix gets your forwarding address." Mason's eyes went wide with terror. "You can't—" "I already did. Now get out of here before I let the crowd know exactly how much money you stole from these women." I released him and stepped back. Mason stumbled toward the exit, pushing through the crowd of onlookers who parted like he had a contagious disease. Emily stood frozen in the alcove, tears streaming down her face. The microphone was still broadcasting, carrying her sobs to every corner of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, my voice carrying clearly through the space, "I'd like to say a few words about loyalty, love, and the true cost of betrayal." The crowd pressed closer, sensing drama. 6 months ago, I thought I was married to a woman who loved me. Instead, I was married to a woman who saw me as a bank account with legs, a woman who laughed about my trust with her friends while she spent my money on her lover. Emily tried to speak, but no words came out. I've learned that some people view marriage as a business transaction. They calculate the cost of affection and decide whether the return on investment is worth their time. Well, Emily, I hope Mason was worth it, because as of tomorrow, you'll be getting the final accounting of exactly what your betrayal cost. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. "Divorce papers. You'll notice I'm not asking for alimony, since you never contributed anything worth keeping, but you will be responsible for all the debts you incurred during our separation, including the $20,000 you spent on Mason and the $15,000 in credit card bills you racked up trying to maintain your lifestyle." Emily's face went ashen as she opened the envelope and saw the numbers. $35,000, I continued. "That's what your affair cost. I hope it was worth it." The crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. Several people were openly filming now, and I knew this would be all over social media within the hour. Emily finally found her voice. "You can't do this to me. I'll fight it." "With what money? Your boutique is 3 months behind on rent. Your mother had to co-sign your apartment lease because your credit is destroyed, and Mason just ran out of here like his pants were on fire." "This isn't over, Thomas." "Yes, it is." I turned to address the crowd one final time. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Please continue supporting the Children's Hospital. They do important work helping people who actually deserve it." The crowd parted as I walked toward the exit. Behind me, I could hear Emily sobbing and Lila and Becca awkwardly trying to comfort her while clearly wanting to distance themselves from the scandal. Outside the bar, Rita was waiting by my car with a huge grin. "How did it go, boss?" "Better than I hoped. Did you get the recording?" "Every word. It's already uploaded to 3 different social media platforms." I climbed into my car and rolled down the window. Through the glass doors of the bar, I could see Emily still standing in the alcove, alone now, clutching the divorce papers like they might disappear. "You know what the best part is?" I told Rita. "What's that?" "I may be single, but at least my credit score's intact. Can't say the same for her windows." Rita laughed as I drove away, leaving Emily to face the crowd of people who now knew exactly what she was worth. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Emily had to move back in with her mother and take a job at a department store to pay off her debts. Mason left town and was last seen working at a gym in Florida, probably looking for his next wealthy mark. As for me, I kept the house, kept my business, and kept my dignity. I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's letting people destroy themselves while you watch from a safe distance. Emily had wanted to marry for money. In the end, money was exactly what destroyed her.